And once you guys can hear, put a 1 in the chat. Let's get to it.
TPUSA has a big problem, and it's about to get worse. When Candace Owens first suggested that TPUSA was involved in a cover-up around Charlie Kirk's murder, most people didn't take it seriously. But just 3 months later, the tide has now turned, and now TPUSA has lost public trust. But on Monday, they're finally responding, and they've promised to set the record straight. They even challenged Candace to come debate them live in person, and a lot of people think that this is where TPUSA ends the conspiracies with facts. But I don't think that's going to happen, because the reason why Candace won so many people over in the first place had very little to do with the facts and everything to do with how she framed the conversation before the facts were ever heard. So in this video, I'm going to show you the framing tactics that Candace is using, and then I'll explain what I believe is the only approach TPUSA can take if they want to have any chance of persuading people who currently believe Candace. You see, this right here is the reason why facts alone won't matter on Monday.
There's nobody that has the capacity to get me to shut up about this except for Erika Kirk. I'm not going to stop unless Erika Kirk asks me to stop. I said early on, if Erika Kirk asks me to be quiet, I will be quiet.
But then Erika did say to stop.
Podcaster Candace Owens. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies.
Did y'all peep that? She had that big smile on her face, and then it was just like, ugh. Lord have mercy. That's how you know that someone is just utterly disgusted with you. You think Candace cares? No. She doesn't care. Not one time has Candace said anything along the lines of, I have to consider the 2 minor children that Erika Kirk and Charlie Kirk shared together. And as a mother, I have to think about what I say impacting those kids. She doesn't even care about the children. Because if she did, she would think twice about some of this stuff when you know they're catching death threats and kidnapping threats, which is not hard to believe. One of the cult members got froggy and sat here and said something about me paying a price one way or the other in my chat. So if random content creators are getting threats in their chats, it's not hard to believe that the children are also catching threats. Sadistic, sick people out there in the world that are evil and soulless, just like Candace Owens, and could care less about the children. They attack Erika and forget that she's a mother. They probably would attack the children if you gave them the opportunity. That's why I could give a crap about how this cult thinks or feels about anything. Because none of them are thinking about those kids. None of them think. Perhaps they see these videos and they look at the chat and they see what people are saying about their mom. They never think about that. They're soulless, evil entities. They don't care, which is why I don't care how they think or feel until they start thinking about the children first. You don't have to like Erika Kirk. No one is mandating that. But the things that you say will have an impact on those children because they're not going to be shielded from YouTube forever.
That Candace is using. Then I'll explain what I believe is the only approach TPUSA can take if they want to have any chance of persuading people who currently believe Candace. You see, this right here is the reason why facts alone won't matter on Monday.
There's nobody that has the capacity to get me to shut up about this except for Erika Kirk. I'm not going to stop unless Erika Kirk asks me to stop. I said early on, if Erika Kirk asks me to be quiet, I will.
She said if she asks me to be quiet, if she asks me to stop, not stop lying. You're listening to what she's saying. This is what I mean by cult mentality. You really think that you're going to change somebody's mind when they're still, even though they're hearing their cult leader say stop, not stop lying, because, you want to be technical with words. You're hearing the same thing here, and they still copy and paste. You don't get to change, like, there's no change in the mind of a brainwashed cult member. This is an example of that. This comment right here. They hear what they want to hear. They read what they want to read, if they read at all. Even words coming out of their cult leader's mouth, because these people are comparing her to Jesus Christ now. So even with the words that she speaks, she never said stop lying. She said stop. They won't even trust their own cult leader as to what she said herself. Funny how that works. Funny how the cult leader is saying, if she tells me to stop, I'll stop. Never said, if she tells me to stop lying, I'll stop lying. She never said that. And we just heard that video, right? The cult doesn't even trust their own cult leaders. They're so conspiratorial, they can't even trust what their own cult leader said. You know, Candace is going to give you 5 lashings for that.
Erika Kirk. I'm not going to stop unless Erika Kirk asks me to stop. I said early on, if Erika Kirk asks me to be quiet, I will be quiet.
But then Erika
She even said, be quiet. She even said, shut up. The cult leader is going to severely punish you for not repeating exactly what she said. How dare your brain rot sit here and misquote your cult leader? You can't make this up.
Say to stop.
Podcaster Candace Owens. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies. What do you want to say to her?
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
And instead of stopping, Candace doubled down. And the reason why she's able to get away with this is because of her framing. Before Erika even sat down at Fox News, Candace has already spent months building a very specific frame. And nearly everyone who was connected to Charlie before his death is positioned as suspicious. And that matters because a frame doesn't change what people hear. It changes how they hear everything that comes after the framing. So when Erika finally spoke,
I already made it clear. I have a disclaimer. I don't care about how the cult members think or feel. So that means you definitely don't get to dictate what I say on my channel. And I know you're going to say, I'm leaving, because, tantrum and all. And then they come right back under a different profile name because bots do that. Cult members and bots do that. Yeah, they're here for the banter.
Publicly, Candace's audience didn't hear a widow defending her team. They heard exactly the frame that she trained them to hear.
Yep.
Guilt.
My silence does not mean that I am complacent. When you go after the people that I love, because somehow they're in on this is not okay. It's not healthy. This is a duty to my husband, and it's an absolute honor, and I will never back down. And so my message to them is to stop.
This is why her audience didn't flinch when Candace described Erika's interview like this.
Whoa! Whoa! Erika Kirk shuts down. No, she didn't even.
She lost her mind. You're going to get a psych eval hit your way, girl. Candace, you're acting like a 2-year-old. You're a clown. You're a cult leader. You're brainless. And brain rot, by the way, is what Charlie Kirk referred to Candace Owens and those who think like her as. Brain rot. Did someone post a link to that video where Charlie Kirk called Candace Owens and people who think like her brain rot? So they can, maybe at some point they'll start attacking Charlie Kirk, I guess. Who knows? Because they're going to run out of targets soon. He called them brain rot. So all the cult members are brain rot. People who think like Candace Owens. Charlie Kirk said that himself. Brain rot. And then they're sitting here believing her when she says she loves them. Can you believe that?
Respond to one of the conspiracies. He gave us emotion. This is why there are many people who do not believe that women are equipped to lead companies, because what you are watching here is an unbelievably emotional response that is absent of any logic.
Okay, now for someone who isn't primed to distrust her, Erika's anger is exactly what she said it was. Genuine frustration with Candace for insinuating that the people that she knows and loves were in on it, and how that's now undermining decades of work that her husband gave his life to build. But Candace's audience wasn't hearing Erika, they were hearing the frame. If Erika is emotional, she's hiding something. And if she's calm, she doesn't care, which means that she's hiding something. And if she pushes back against Candace, she's defensive, which means that she's hiding something. And if she doesn't push back against Candace and she stays silent, that also means that she's hiding something. And meanwhile, Candace's own emotional arguments never register as manipulation because she never framed herself as someone that you should distrust. So on Monday, the same framing is going to apply to TPUSA. If anyone shows sadness, anger, or moral conviction, Candace will interpret it, and her audience will hear it, as emotional manipulation or the lack of self-control, just like how she did with Tim Pool, for example. That's why genuine emotion and the facts are not going to save TPUSA, because their emotions are already framed as guilt.
Yeah, because that's what cult members do. Cult leaders tell you what to think, how to feel, how to take in information. One of the cult members in here can't recognize numbers, because Candace doesn't know the difference between the number 9 and the letter N. That came out of her mouth. Candace said she doesn't know the difference between the number 9 and the letter N. You can't make this up. So her cult members don't understand numbers either. Her cult members don't know what numbers look like. They're showing it. Someone said I have 40 people watching. Where do you see the number 4? Y'all, we laugh at the cult members. We don't take them seriously. Clowns.
And if she doesn't push back against Candace and she stays silent, that also means that she's hiding something. And meanwhile, Candace's own emotional arguments never register as manipulation because she never framed herself as someone that you should distrust. So on Monday, the same framing is going to apply to TPUSA. If anyone shows sadness, anger, or moral conviction, Candace will interpret it, and her audience will hear it, as emotional manipulation or the lack of self-control, just like how she did with Tim Pool, for example. That's why genuine emotion and the facts are not going to save TPUSA, because their emotions are...
Yeah, because to her, this is a PR stunt. And she's already trained them. Y'all heard him use that terminology? Trained them on what to hear and think. She trained them to hear. Candace Owens trained her cult on what to hear. He said it so plainly right here. Evidence of a cult. Your cult leader tells you what to do, gives you marching orders, tells you what to hear, tells you what to interpret, tells you what to read, if reading at all. They don't read. So whatever she says, that's what they, even when she says, if Erika Kirk tells me to stop, then I'll stop. Not stop lying, but stop. They still now want to hear stop lying, even though she never said it. See, she trains them on what to hear. And then the cult members and the bots, they take that and they compute that, those words only, and then they copy and paste it everywhere. And then they have a seance where they tell themselves that the same thing over and over again all day so that it can somehow manifest in their alternate reality that's not here on Earth. I don't know where these people are. They can be on Venus, on the moon. Wherever they are in La La Land, that's how they operate. She trains them. Because that's what cult leaders do. They train their cults. They tell their members what to do, what to think, how to live, how to eat, decisions to make, and then weaponizes their fear if they claim to be Christians. And then they end up treating her like Jesus Christ. Never mind the real God that I serve that would consider it to be blasphemous. That has a way of showing you who's God. No. Next thing you know, they're calling her Jesus Christ because they've already started doing that. You can't make this up. She trains them.
Guilt.
My silence does not mean that I am complacent. When you go after the people that I love, because somehow they're in on this is not okay. It's not healthy. This is a duty to my husband, and it's an absolute honor, and I will never back down. And so my message to them is to stop.
This is why her audience didn't flinch when Candace described Erika's interview like this.
Whoa! Whoa! Erika Kirk shuts down the No, she didn't even respond to one of the
We didn't flinch because she's acting like a 2-year-old toddler. Whoa! I can't have a cookie. Whoa! What do you mean no?
conspiracies. You gave us emotion. This is why there are many people who do not believe that women are equipped to lead companies, because what you are watching here is an unbelievably emotional response that is absent of any logic.
Okay, now
Although she has a whole LLC named after her. You know, Candace Owens LLC, which means that she's the owner of that. She's the CEO. Yeah, okay. So Candace, who's already professed to being an alien, is not a woman, is what she's saying. Even though she has Candace Owens LLC. It's not in Boys Club's name. It's in her name. It's hers. But she says women cannot be CEOs, even though she would be CEO of Candace Owens LLC. But since she's saying women cannot be, and she's already said she's an alien, then Candace is an alien. She's confirming it. Thank you. You know, because Candace, we can do this too.
for someone who isn't primed to distrust her, Erika's anger is exactly what she said it was. Genuine
Candace is an
frustration with
alien.
Candace for insinuating that the people that she knows and loves were in on it, and how that's now undermining decades of work that her husband gave his life to
Oh,
build.
alien.
But Candace's audience wasn't hearing Erika. They were hearing the frame. If Erika is emotional, she's hiding something. And if she's calm, she doesn't care, which means that she's hiding something. And if she pushes back against Candace, she's defensive, which means that she's hiding something. And if she doesn't push back against Candace and she stays silent, that also means that she's hiding something. And meanwhile, Candace's own emotional arguments never register as manipulation because she never framed herself as someone that you should distrust. So on Monday, the same framing is going to apply to TPUSA. If anyone shows sadness, anger, or moral conviction, Candace will interpret it, and her audience will hear it, as emotional manipulation or the lack of self-control, just like how she did with Tim Pool, for example. That's why genuine emotion and the facts are not going to save TPUSA, because their emotions are already framed as guilt. Okay, but next comes the privacy issue, and this is where Candace's framing becomes almost impossible to escape. Watch how a completely normal boundary gets reinterpreted as evidence of wrongdoing. Erika said that she only wanted to keep one thing private, and that's where Charlie was buried.
Can I have one thing? Can my babies have one thing where we hold it sacred, where my husband is laid to rest, where I don't have to be worried about some secular revolutionary coming and destroying my husband's grave while my daughter is sitting there praying?
But listen to how Candace reframed that boundary.
You want privacy when you want it, but you want publicity whenever you want it. And that just doesn't work. This is the same person.
No, because we're talking about two totally different things. She's out here promoting a book, not a dead body. But Candace is the one walking around here saying dead people are coming to her in visions. And then talks about Christ is king, even though the Bible is clear on that. Candace, it's witchcraft, you alien. Whatever seance and ritual you do on your home planet, Candace, ET phone home. Take that nonsense out of here. Just because you have visions of a deceased person coming to you, telling you everything except who the shooter is, because you still don't know, does not mean that perfect strangers should know where the body of Charlie Kirk is laid. Why? Who asked that? It's not even normal. No one walks up to someone and says, you know, how are you doing? I heard you lost your husband. Where is he buried? Who asks that normally? That's not even normal conversation. It's not even a normal question that people ask someone. If you say that you've lost someone in your life, the first thing is, I'm sorry for your loss. You know, we're praying for you for comfort, for peace. People don't arbitrarily just turn around and say, oh, I'm so sorry for that. Where is your husband buried at? Where's his body? Where's his grave? I mean, no one cares if they believe he's dead or not. No one cares about that. You don't cater to the cult. That's what Candace wants you to do, you know, because she trains them on what to hear already. So she wants them to believe that it's part of our investigation that she's impersonating and investigating for, to know where the dead body is, even though the dead person is coming to her in a vision. What difference does it make? You don't need to know where a dead body is laid. None of them are going to go out and confirm it, because they won't even go to UVU and confirm anything. Candace won't even go to the UVU campus and follow the trail of the shooter to try to figure out, where these underground tunnels are and how it leads up to some trap door where someone shot Charlie Kirk. Or look at these pipes, reasons. She won't even go tour the campus herself. She's certainly not going to the gravesite of Charlie Kirk. She brings these things up as a moot point. Candace Owens does not care where Charlie Kirk is buried. It is a PR stunt for her. She will never go to the gravesite. She didn't even go to the memorial. And the cult members are going to keep making excuses for her because she trains them on what to hear. She trains them. Hard stop. Candace Owens trains her cult members like they're pets, like dogs. Yeah. And she wants to know where Charlie Kirk's body is. It's in the ground in a casket. Are they going to try to raise him from the dead? I mean, how's this going to go?
Who had somebody record her over Charlie Kirk's casket and to publish his body on Instagram was a decision that was made by Erika. That is an incredibly personal and an incredibly intimate moment that you invited the public into. And now you fast forward 3 months removed and it's why does the public want to know where he's buried? It doesn't work like that.
So for anyone that
It
hasn't,
does work like that. Why would you use that example to say it doesn't work like that? Candace, here's how things do not work. You don't get to disseminate medical information that was illegally given to you from hospital staff who violated HIPAA privacy laws as a covered entity. And then you took that ER entry to show, Charlie Kirk did go to this hospital. And for what? We know you don't care about the investigation, but what does that tell us? We don't, okay. We expect him to go to a hospital. He was shot. Where else do you think he went? He didn't go to the bar or anything and have a drink. He went to the hospital. So telling us which hospital he went to is irrelevant. If the investigators want to know for the purposes of the murder trial, they'll go get the information, what they need from the hospital with Erika Kirk's consent so that they could get certain medical records like the autopsy, which is going to be used in the murder trial. Other than that, seeing a screenshot of an EMR of him being admitted into the ER was a moot point. No one needed to see that. We learned nothing from that other than him going to that hospital. That would have came out either way when they discussed the autopsy report in the murder trial. We would have found that information out either way. So it was irrelevant for her to even get that. And then to disseminate it without consent from Erika Kirk, because that is a violation of privacy, could make her liable for damages. Erika Kirk could sue her for invasion of privacy of her husband's medical information that was violated by hospital staff when they took the screenshot and sent that email. And then they sent an email that was an internal email from the charge nurse to the medical staff. Standard procedure when you have high-profile individuals come to a hospital. You assign them specific staffs, specific nurses, and ensure that they understand they're not to discuss anything that's going on with this particular patient. Because they're high profile, they're a public figure, they're a celebrity, whatever. It happens all the time. That's standard in hospitals. And whomever still sent a screenshot of that email that should not have been released either. That hospital staff should have been fired because they violated HIPAA privacy laws. These are federal laws that protects patient information, whether the person is alive or deceased. That's what the law says. So when Candace Owens acquired that illegally, she did not have the right to disseminate that. And these are things, I'm not saying this for the cult because they don't read. And I've gone over this in a separate video. They don't read it and take in actual information. They're trained to listen to what she says. That's it. That's how it works in a cult. But Candace could get hit with a lawsuit just for that. CMI violations could still hold you liable for damages and for invasion of privacy. No one told Candace to post that up. She chose to do it. She doesn't even vet her tips, so she's not smart enough to know certain information should not be disseminated. But she'll get mad, though, if she got sued for it. You can't make this up.
Listened to Candace and adopted her framing of distrust, this is entirely reasonable. Erika doesn't want strangers with ill intent showing up at the place where her family goes to grieve. And that's not suspicious. It seems like a normal human request. However, inside Candace's framing, any attempt at privacy becomes evidence of a cover-up. And this is exactly why Turning Point can't win on Monday by sharing facts alone, no matter how reasonable. Because while the trial is still ongoing, there will always be information that they can't release. And that means that Candace's audience will hear every withheld detail as confirmation of wrongdoing and every released detail as inconsistent or suspect. Either way.
The thing is, they only hear what she says, and then they still don't hear that correctly either. Because Candace said, if she tells me to stop, then I'll stop. Now they're spreading, like a propaganda machine. The bots are working overtime, trying to push out this narrative. No, if she says stop lying. No, she says stop. She literally said that in at least 2 or 3 videos. Then she said if she tells her to be quiet or shut up, she would do either of those 3 things. She will stop, shut up, or be quiet. Not stop lying. Stop. That came out of Candace's mouth. And the cult's still sitting here disseminating that incorrectly. Oh, because Candace came behind her and said, no, stop lying. She's adding into this. And they're just going with that. They're not challenging her on, well, no, that's not what you said previously. Because hive mentality and the cult and everything are scared of the cult leader.
They lose. And this is where Candace's distrust framing becomes truly dangerous. Once the frame is in place, any disagreement is rewritten as proof of corruption or coordination. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say just about every single high-profile person that's publicly disagreed with Candace, she's implied that they're either corrupt or that they're in on it. So if you notice, pointing out Candace's errors or questioning her couldn't possibly be because she's wrong, or even because people are tired of watching her literally destroy Charlie's work and hurting other people in the process. Instead, in her framing, disagreement is seen as having nefarious motives. If you correct...
Yeah, because that's what cult leaders do. If you disagree with me, you're attacking me. Y'all notice that? She's like Jim Jones. She's the black female version of Jim Jones. Oh, if you don't agree with me, then you're attacking me. Then you're calling me names. Never mind the stuff she says, leads to death threats and kidnapping threats, because the cult doesn't care about the children at all. That's how soulless they are. That's how soulless and mindless and evil they are, where they don't even think about the children. They're so deadlocked on attacking Erika and trying to push this propaganda from their cult leader. They're not thinking about the kids ever seeing or reading the comments or watching these videos. None of that. These kids are minors. They're innocent. They don't care about adults bickering. They don't understand what a cult is like that yet. They just know that they see somebody in a video talking about their daddy all the time, and now flailing around her arms like a crazy person talking about their mother. That's what they see in here. They're children. You think the cult is going to spare the kids? Hell no. They're evil and soulless and mindless.
They're facts, then you're part of the psyop. And if you challenge her logic, then you're part of the psyop. And even if you mention Candace's name in a negative way, part of the psyop. What we're left with is no scenario where criticism means Candace might be wrong. It always means that you're in on it. You're being paid by Israel and so on. This framing removes the possibility of...
Yeah, I'm waiting on that Israel check. That's $7,000 an hour that Candace cult members keep telling me I'm supposed to be getting. When is it coming? You can't ask them to produce evidence because that would require for them to read. So they will never produce any evidence that someone has been paid $7,000. They will never produce that evidence. They just keep asking, am I being paid? No, you tell me when I'm getting paid. Since you're saying that I'm supposed to be getting paid money, when this is going to happen? And these same cult members won't leave a super. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Hit the like button. The same cult members that are saying, how much are you getting paid? I thought it was $7,000 an hour. Didn't you all tell me that? When is this payout going to happen? Stop beating around the bush. When is the payout going to occur? When am I going to get paid the $7,000? Because obviously they've got the details on who's getting paid what and how much and when and how often. What's the payment method on this? What should I expect? A wire transfer? Is it going to be one big super? How's this going to go? Because obviously they're seeing content creators get paid $7,000 in real time, I guess, or they have evidence on it. You see, Candace, two can play this game, girl. I don't even need to come up with stuff. I just take whatever you and your dumb cult members are saying and flip it on them. When am I going to get paid the money? And show a receipt or transaction of someone actually getting paid $7,000. I'll wait. Because I know I don't owe your cult leader a damn thing. She's not, no. Here in reality on earth, you know, she could walk into oblivion and I will sleep peacefully tonight. Ciao, boo.
Honest disagreement, and every critic is framed as part of the conspiracy. So it's important to remember that this is how she's going to respond to any counter narratives that Turning Point is going to show. Literally, no matter what they say on Monday, it'll be framed as being part of the scripted psyop. And even if they don't respond to a lot of the claims, then it's going to be the same thing that she's been saying all along. Their silence on these facts proves that they're in on the cover-up. This frame delegitimizes every possible messenger except for Candace, which means that she doesn't have to be correct. She only has to make everyone else look compromised. Okay, so here's why all of this puts TPUSA at a massive disadvantage going into Monday. Candace has 3 straight months of daily content to frame TPUSA as untrustworthy, and her audience has already bought into that framing long before TPUSA decided to respond. So if they walk into Monday thinking that they can fix this with facts alone, then they're walking straight into a trap. In their announcement video, they said that they plan to expose the truth and to correct the facts that Candace got wrong. Now that sounds good in theory, but as we've already seen, people aren't believing Candace because of the facts. This means that any correction that Turning Point gives will be heard as further confirmation of guilt, not as a refutation of it. And secondly, what also makes Candace so persuasive is the fact that she often starts where her audience already has an ache, which gives them emotional buy-in to what she's saying, whether that's...
Yeah, emotional. Facts don't care about your feelings, Candace. The purposes of what they're doing this for is to simply put the facts and correct the bullshit lies she's telling on the record. Now, that's going to go over the cult members' heads, but to the Luxters, you do understand when I say that they're trying to put the facts and the evidence and documentation on the record. What that means, right? They're documenting this for the record. So the next steps that they take, hopefully it will be what I've been screaming all along, with one big, beautiful lawsuit. They have to prove malice intent. If they truly are not trying to convince this cult, and they shouldn't, because the cults are trained to believe what Candace says. They don't even care what she does or lack thereof. They just believe what she say. Let them stay in La La Land. Don't convince them of a damn thing. That's why I don't sit here and try to change their mind. When they're asking me questions, they ask me the same questions they ask all the time. It's a copy and paste comment. They auto repeat. That's why I'm not stunned. I don't entertain them. I just simply ask them, when am I getting the money? When am I getting this $7,000 per hour? Not per episode. don't cheapen me. $7,000 per hour. When is it gonna come? Because they're not paying it. The cult members don't send me supers like that to say, you know what? Let's make sure we give you money so that you don't have to take it from Israel. No, they don't do that. They don't care if I get money. They just copying and pasting the same comments because that's what cult do. They think hive mentality. They lack originality. They won't ask questions related to the topic or anything. You ask them a question, they deter and deflect and dodge and dip and duck. So that's why I don't care what they think or feel. They're copying and pasting the same comments. They're literally showing they can't really take comprehension beyond what she tells them anyway. So putting this information out here should not be to change Candace Owens' mind or convince her of anything or her cult members of anything. It should simply be for putting the evidence and the documentation on the record. We want to show that we corrected her errors. Whether she corrects what she's saying or not, irrelevant. They need to make it plain as to why they're doing this debunking video. And say flat out, we're not doing this because we're trying to get her to understand anything. We don't care if she believes us or not. I suck all that fire out the room. She's too much of a coward to go face Erika Kirk herself. Candace doesn't even care. George told her no. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if she flew out to Phoenix. She's a coward. She won't face them face to face. So they need to make it clear, we're not doing this to convince Candace of anything. We don't give a damn what she thinks. We don't care what she thinks. We're doing this for the record. And then she can find out the hard way with getting hit with a huge lawsuit. And then they're going to go home and sleep peacefully that night. They don't care if she's been convinced of a damn thing. I don't want Candace to stop talking. I want her to keep talking because she keeps putting evidence out there that can be used against her in a court of law. Her cult members don't think twice about that either because they think they're above the rule of law. So let her keep talking. Just put things out there for the record. Show the court that you tried to correct her errors. She's not going to accept it either way. She's already proven that with the Macron lawsuit. She's not going to take anything in because it's going to make her look bad because she's a cult leader. It's about her narcissism, her pride, and her ego. Period. She doesn't like being corrected. We've already seen that. She has a pattern of behavior. That's why I went over her other lawsuits to establish that pattern of behavior for them. So they have half of a lawsuit handed to them on a silver platter from the Lady Luck Club. Pattern of behavior has already been established. All they have to do is show that she is doing all that she's doing with malicious intent. Because when we gave the facts, we didn't expect her to take it, but she didn't. She could have surprised us all, but she chose to still be a cult leader, and that's it. But we put out the facts. She rejected everything, and she still parroted the same talking points and the same defamation, and she did it with malicious intent. They should only be doing this for the record and stop playing around with Candace. File a lawsuit against her. We don't care about how she feels with that either. File a lawsuit against her. Let her F around and find out in court. They want to ask all these questions. Who cares? It'll be answered in court. That way she can get to that, discovery phase she keeps crying about.
Distrust of the FBI after the Epstein investigation, resentment towards government cover-ups, memories of the BLM era manipulation, and so on. Not only are these emotional touch points for her audience, but these are the same things that Turning Point has pointed their audience to in the past as well. So this puts her in the position where she doesn't even need to explain to people why they shouldn't trust the FBI in Charlie Kirk's case. And this is where I believe Turning Point is likely to make a mistake. By pointing to the FBI as a trusted reason for why Turning Point is innocent, Clearly, that is not going to be taken as credible evidence by her audience, nor a lot of the people in Turning Point's audience, which is the core problem. If Turning Point even wants a chance at reaching the people who currently agree with Candace, then they cannot start with them.
Let me stop right there. They shouldn't try to reach the people who agree with Candace. They're brainwashed. It's that brain rot. It's the brain rot that Charlie Kirk talked about. The person that Candace so loves so much. He called them brain rot. He shouldn't. They shouldn't try to reach the people that are worshiping the ground that Candace walks on. They're a cult. Don't try to reach them. Do it for record keeping purposes only. We're just creating a record. That's it. We're not doing this to convince her or her cult of anything. We don't care what they think or feel. Not at all. We're not convincing them of anything. We're not proving to them anything. And if Candace wants to knuck if you buck, then you can do it in court when we sue you. The end. That's it. That's simple. That's straightforward. You gotta when you see kids, they throwing tantrums and stuff in the candy aisle and all this stuff in the grocery store. You don't sit here and appease them while they're throwing a tantrum. You teach them why they should not be throwing the tantrum. Sometimes it requires for you to just walk off a little bit, walk away, and they see you not stun them while you continue, shopping for groceries. And they see you not really stun that attitude and that temper tantrum. Guess what they do? They get up and then they eventually walk behind you because they realize I can't take care of myself. They realize that. At some point, Candace she's going to get up off the candy aisle, stop throwing a tantrum, and she's just going to walk away and be done with it. And then she's going to go on to the next subject. That's how that's going to go. So if she's left any damage behind, guess what? You sue her and make her pay for those damages. Don't try to prove nothing to her. Cult leaders, it's not our goal as human beings to change the mind of another. You let God handle that. But let the purposes of this debunking video they're going to do Monday be solely for creating a record. We need to prove malice intent because she's claiming to be a public figure. And we hit hard, we want to hit hard. And be done with it. That's it. It's that simple. Don't try to reach them. Don't try to convince them. If they're going into it with that mindset, they're going to lose the PR stunt because that's all this is for Candace. This is all about PR. That's it. She doesn't care about anything else. She won't even talk about the kids once again.
Facts. They have to first reset the framing before they present any facts, or else everything that they say is going to be filtered through the suspicion that Candace has already built. So what should they do? Well, here's one way to reset the framing. They can reset the framing not by telling the viewers what she's doing, but showing them by doing the same thing that she's doing. They can be just as suspicious of her as she is of them. Not to accuse her of anything, but to reveal how her method works. So in theory, they could start by reframing the way that the audience sees her by asking her questions about her motives. For example, she tells us that we can't trust the FBI and implies that the reason why she couldn't go to Charlie's memorial is because they would harm or kill her.
While I'm attacking the feds, maybe not going to a public event, which the feds are organizing, is probably a very good idea.
And then they could ask, so why then did she reach out to them when she said that there was an assassination attempt on her life?
Y'all see that? Didn't I say that? That's the same question I've been asking this entire time. Shout out to what do you mean? Shout out to who do you mean? I've been saying that this entire time. Candace, why do you care if the FBI responds to you when you don't trust what they say either way? Why don't you start by posting that text message you allegedly sent to that FBI agent? Y'all know she lying like hell, right? Just in case, maybe you're new here in the Lady Luck Club, and let's say you're not a cult member, and you're not a bot, and you're just spectating. Candace Owens lies like hell. She's a pathological liar. She's a narcissistic, pathological liar. That is more than likely is going to be ordered to a psyche eval in this Macron lawsuit. Because she's at, Lord knows there's enough videos to convince a judge that she needs to be ordered to a psyche eval. Candace lies about everything. And even the lies themselves make no sense. Lying about George saying he told you no. I don't believe he told her no. I just believe she's using that as a cop-out. But since she said that, then why hasn't the cult gone after George for telling her no? Why not let her go face Turning Point and Erika Kirk face to face in person? Because if he said no, wouldn't he have said something to the extent, although it is a great invitation that TPUSA sent to my wife, I told her no for safety reasons. He hasn't said anything. Boys Club knows how to speak when he wants to speak up. With his weird, mysterious ass. But Boys Club hasn't even made a statement about it or said anything about it. Nor did she say why he told her no. Just because Boys Club has friends coming in from other countries doesn't mean that Candace Owens needs to be there. They have enough money to get a nanny, to get a tutor, to do the homeschooling for that Monday. So that's not a reason, logically speaking. So the idea that he told her no instantly and all this stuff, as narcissistic as she is, nah. No way. See, Candace, I don't have to believe anything you say. But if that be the case, if she really wanted to go out and just sincerely ask questions, if she was genuine about trying to find out what happened, she would go and face them in person. The bullshit excuse she used to not go to a memorial, because I'm attacking the FBI. Why would I go to the memorial? You attack everybody. So why is that an excuse? Candace Owens attacked an entire country's president and the first lady of France. She attacks the Israeli prime minister. So now you want to make it seem as if, I'm attacking the FBI. So I'm not going to no memorial service when I'm attacking the FBI. When you out here attacking world leaders, you attack the High Court of Australia, Tony Burke. You attacked the French president, the first lady of France. You attacked the Israeli prime minister. You attacked whole presidents. You've attacked Trump. She attacks presidents of countries. So attacking the FBI somehow now has her too scared to go to a memorial service of someone that she was so in love with because she was. Her lies make no sense. But you think her cult members are going to pick that up and ask her about that? What do you mean you don't want to go because you attack the FBI? You attack everyone. What difference does it make? I mean, you're saying now that the French president is trying to have you assassinated with no evidence of proof. No transactions from this club to Sant. No evidence of that paper trail. But it didn't stop you from going to Dollywood. But somehow attacking the FBI scared her from going to the memorial. Narcissists don't care about being hypocritical. Also, liars. They don't care about that. Her lies are stupid. You can go to Dollywood with an assassination attempt on you from a world leader, from the president of France, but you couldn't go to Charlie Kirk's memorial service because you attacked the FBI. Make that make sense? But if the FBI wanted to do something to her, they would have done something to her at Dollywood, and that didn't happen. Candace goes where she wants to go and does what she wants to do freely. Unlike Erika Kirk and the two small kids. Because they're getting death threats and kidnapping threats, Erika Kirk now has to have extra security detail. She can't just go to Dollywood and not have any security around her. That's what's so unfortunate about this. This is why I don't care about how the cult thinks or feels, because they're not thinking about the children, at least. Even if you don't care for the adults, they're not even thinking about the kids. Erika Kirk probably would love to take her kids to Disney World, to an open theme park. She can't do that because there are threats for her kids to be kidnapped. And yet, Candace Owens is scared of the FBI when it comes to going to a memorial service, but she's not afraid of this French female assassin and this male Israeli operative that she claims the president of France is paying to take her life, and some French legionnaire. And she goes to Dollywood. Her lies are dumb, but it's a cult. That's what you get with a cult. They believe dumb lies that are hypocritical and make no sense, that lacks logic. They don't question it. They don't think twice about it. They just copy and paste and repeat it everywhere. That's why no one should give a damn about what they think or how they feel. That's why Turning Point should not give a damn about what Candace thinks or feels when they do this debunking video. It's for record purposes only. We're simply making a record. We don't care if she believes it. We could go back and forth with the hypocrisies, but we rather line it all out in a federal complaint and a federal lawsuit. Then, like, that's exactly what they need to do.
I thought that
Don't
the
be scared of her.
FBI were the ones that she believed wanted to harm her.
I report to the FBI. Of course, I reported it to the FBI.
So is she working with the FBI? I mean, after all, she did admit to having someone who's high up in the FBI, their personal phone number, and was texting them.
The FBI left me on red. And I will say, I didn't go through an official channel and send an email, and I should
would
do
she
that.
care?
But I did send a text message to somebody very high up who received the text message.
From somebody high up. And we never saw this text message. And you think her cult members are asking her to post that text? You think they're going to ask her, Candace, why didn't you file a formal FBI complaint? You know why they're not going to do that? Because she's trained them on what to hear. It's a cult. She tells them what to think and hear, what to decipher, how to feel. They copy and paste the same comments. Some of them are very long. I'm seeing them in the chat. You're sending the same questions over and over again. Does not do anything here in the Lady Luck Club. Please understand, to the Candy Ass cult members, you enter into this chat at your own peril, at your own risk. I don't care how you feel or what you think. Copying and pasting the same comments gets ignored because you're not even being creative. You're not even being creative. They want me to ask the same question 18,000 times because they think like a hive. They don't have a brain. You know, it's brain rot and all.
I didn't go through an official channel and send an email, and I should do that. But I did send a text message to somebody.
And she should do that. When are you going to do that, Candace? When are you going to do that? When are you going to file a formal FBI complaint? Because it's not an email. It's a website. When are you going to file that formal FBI complaint? When are you going to do it? I should do that, but she hasn't done it. You think the cult is asking her when she's going to do that?
Very high up who received the text message.
So how do we know that she isn't the one working with the FBI to distract people away from the true killer? And also, what other reason would there be?
You know, that's a good question. We don't know if she's not working with the other side to distract from the truth. You know what? That's such a good question. Let me go back. Young man is thinking.
Somebody very high up who received the text message.
So how do we know that she isn't the one working with the FBI to distract?
How do we know she's not the one working with the FBI? How do we know that, Candace? We're just asking questions. Candace, are you working with the FBI to distract from the true killer? How do we know that you weren't there in person wearing a maroon shirt and a hat and some sunglasses? Do I have to pull up the photo of Jermaine Stewart? Candace, many have said that you look like a boy to them as well. How do we know you're not working with the feds, Candace? Mighty funny how you won't post that FBI text message or file a formal complaint to the FBI about this so-called assassination attempt, or even post up evidence on that, or give us the name of this French female assassin and that male Israeli operative, because if they're trying to take someone's life in exchange for money, why do we care about them being on the street? They should be in jail. So why not ensure that they're collected and arrested? Let's get the bad guys off the street. She wants the bad guys out to be free on the street. But yet still, she goes to Dollywood, but not go to Charlie Kirk's memorial. We still have the same FBI. The FBI didn't change between Charlie Kirk's memorial and her going to Dollywood. FBI director still the same. Same people in the FBI. Who's the person you sent this text message to, Candace? What's his name? Or her name?
People away from the true killer. And also, what other reason would there be for her to say that her favorite text from Charlie that she released publicly was one where he was talking about a girl that he was in love with that wasn't Erika?
This text message is one of my favorite text messages between me and Charlie. He was just kind of in love with this girl.
Was this an attempt to enrage?
Maybe that girl was Candace Owens. Perhaps, maybe. I'm just asking questions. Candace, what evidence do you have to show us to keep us from believing that that girl was not you? Because right now we have the right to assume that this is Candace Owens she's talking about. She's talking about herself. I mean, we could do the same thing, Candace. We can come up with some assumptions. I don't like theories, but I don't mind doing an assumption on this. Based on what you said, Candace, and how you're acting, and your conduct, and your lack of evidence, what's stopping us from assuming that this so-called girl is not Candace Owens? What's stopping us from assuming that? We can do that. Candace, are you the girl he's talking about in that text message?
One where he was talking about a girl that he was in love with that wasn't Erika.
Was it Candace? Was it Candace? Candace, is he talking about you? Perhaps it's time for Candace to start telling the truth. Candace, were you ever in love with Charlie Kirk? Were you ever in love with Charlie Kirk? Because so far you haven't shown any evidence that you're not. Because we know, but we don't know, but we know. Candace, we know no good and you don't.
This text message
I
is
think
one of my favorite
Candace.
text messages between me and Charlie. He was just kind of in love with this girl.
Was this an attempt
Oh,
to
yeah, that's
enrage
Candace.
Erika
That
now
sounds
that
like
Erika
Candace.
is the new CEO of Turning Point? I mean, just think about it. Why is it that we never seem to hear the names of Candace's sources? And why can we never verify what these sources are saying for ourselves? Is indistinguishable from someone that's making it all up and is part of a government psyop. So really the question is this: could she have used her elite status, her influence, and her FBI connections as an attempt to destroy Turning Point? After all, what sounds more logical to you? That Charlie was so dumb that he accidentally handpicked each person at Turning Point?
I'm gonna let you think that, buddy. Candace, was that text message about you? Was that text message about you? Funny how the cult members ask 1,000 questions, but they won't ask these questions to their cult leader that they see as Jesus Christ. Go ask Candace Owens when she's going to post up that text message to the FBI. I think that text message she's talking about, that girl he was in love with, I think Candace is saying that he's talking about her, that Charlie Kirk was talking about her. Whether Charlie Kirk was actually talking about Candace Owens or not, in the mind of Candace Owens, would be irrelevant. You understand what I'm saying? No reply. So to Candace, those text messages where Charlie Kirk is speaking about being in love with a girl could have very well been about Erika Kirk, but to Candace Owens, it was about Candace Owens. Because she's a narcissist. And maybe, perhaps, maybe Charlie Kirk said something to Candace Owens to have her believe that he was in love with her, as opposed to, no, I love you like a sister. Perhaps, maybe, perhaps. Candace Owens was so deep in love with Charlie Kirk to where every time he said, hey, you know I love you, right? And she took that as, you know I'm in love with you, right? one can only, come to these conclusions based on how she's acting and behaving and, her vivid imagination. It seems like those text messages in Candace Owens' world, in her reality, in her alternate reality, those text messages were about her. Whether Charlie Kirk was talking about Erika or not, Candace doesn't care. To her, Charlie was talking about Candace Owens. Yeah. Because she was in love with him. See, Candace, we can all do this. We can sit here and reframe.
Turning point? I mean, just think about it. Why is it that we never seem to hear the names of Candace's sources? And why can we never verify what these sources are saying for ourselves? Is indistinguishable from someone that's making it all up and is part of a government psyop. So really the question is this. Could she have used her elite status, her influence, and her FBI connections as an attempt to destroy Turning Point? After all, what sounds more logical to you? That Charlie was so dumb that he accidentally handpicked each person at Turning Point who somehow all decided to agree to conspire against them and he had no idea and even his wife is in on it? Or is it more probable that Candace is a Fed who's being used to pull people away from the official narrative? But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that she is involved. I'm just asking questions. Yep. Okay, so
oh, that was brilliant. Oh, look, we're just asking questions. I'm not saying the text messages wasn't about Erika. I'm just saying that Candace Owens thinks that it was about her. we're just asking questions. I'm just saying, either Charlie Kirk, was too stupid to handpick people that he could trust, or Candace Owens is a part of the FBI conspiracy, which is why she won't file an FBI complaint formally and show proof that she's gotten confirmation about this assassination attempt, and she won't post the text message she sent to that high-ranking FBI person, and somehow does not know the difference between an official email where complaints do not go to versus filing the complaint online. Maybe that high-ranking French government employee that called her talking about, payments are going through this club de sang from the French president for your assassination. You might want to look into that. And Candace failing to ask for evidence on that. Maybe Candace is being paid some of that money and her name and bank account number will show up on the paper trail. Lord, we should follow the money. Candace, post your taxes up for Candace Owens LLC. Like, if we start looking into her taxes for her LLC, what are we going to find, Candace? What are we going to find? You know how many people have asked me to do that? Candace, you don't want me researching your taxes for Georgetown Inc. and Candace Owens LLC. Even though I've been asked several times to do that. To look into Candace Owens LLC's taxes and to Georgetown Inc. taxes. And do an entire analysis and do a whole video on it. What am I going to find, Candace? Are we going to see payments from the FBI? What about from that French female assassin and that male Israeli operative? What about money from, I don't know, somewhere near Gaza or Russia? You don't like Ukrainians. You said you wanted to be Russian and go to Russia. What if someone paid her from Russia to sit and to give out marching orders to her cult members to report any Ukrainian to the authorities, even though they're not committing a crime. Candace, what if you were paid by Russia to do that, to say that, to put that out there? I wonder. We're asking questions. We're wondering. Are we going to see payments from Russia where you were paid to tell your cult fan base in Tennessee to report any Ukrainian, even though looking at someone just off the bat, they probably wouldn't know if they were Ukrainian or not? Who's paying you to say that, Candace?
The point.
We're
If
just
Turning
asking
Point
questions.
resets the framing from the beginning of the conversation by not only applying the same degree of skepticism and distrust to Candace, and also finds the frustration that her audience already shares, then they will give themselves the best chance of winning over Candace's fans. So we'll see how it goes, and come back here after and we'll see if I was right. And if you didn't catch my last video on the tactics that Candace uses that makes her so persuasive, go ahead and click on the video on the screen and I'll see you over there. All right? Thanks for watching.
That was awesome. Y'all, shout out to What Do You Mean? Oh my goodness. Y'all see What Do You Mean? He's got WHADDO. What do you mean? This was awesome. Shout out to him. I love the part of him saying, yeah, you know, because we're just asking questions about her being FBI informant.
Verify
Oh, I
what these
can't get
sources
past
are
that.
saying for ourselves is indistinguishable from someone that's
Oh,
making
man,
it all
so
up
good.
and is part of a government psyop. So really the question is this: could she have used her elite status, her influence, and her FBI connections as an attempt to destroy Turning Point? After all, what sounds more logical to you? That Charlie was so dumb that he accidentally handpicked each person at Turning Point who somehow all decided to agree to conspire against them and he had no idea, and even his wife is in on it? Or is it more probable that Candace is a Fed who's being used to pull people away from the official narrative? But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that she is involved. I'm just asking questions.
We're all asking
Okay, so
questions.
you get the
Candace.
point. If Turning Point resets the framing from the beginning of the conversation by not only applying the same degree of skepticism and distrust to Candace, and also finds the frustration that her audience already shares, then they will give themselves the best chance of winning over Candace's fans. So we'll see how it goes, and come back here after and we'll see if I was right. And if you didn't catch my last video on the tactics that Candace uses that makes her so persuasive, go ahead and click on the video on the screen and I'll see you over there. All right? Thanks for watching.
That was awesome. What do you mean? Shout out to What Do You Mean? You can't make this up. That was so good. Candace, are you using your connections to distract from who the true shooter is? Maybe she knows who the true shooter is and she just won't tell us because she wants to distract with these Egyptian planes. Candace, are you being paid by the Egyptians to talk about their planes flying in our airspace, landing on U.S. soil? Man, I'm starting to ask a lot of questions here, Candace. What are your taxes going to show me, Candace, when I start looking this stuff up? When I start researching your taxes, what am I going to see, Candace? You know, your very public Candace Owens LLC tax documents. Candace, what am I going to come across? You know, because we're just asking questions. We have the right to look at Candace Owens LLC's taxes. That's supposed to be a nonprofit, right? We have the right to see what she's got going on. She's taking in money from the public, donations and contributions. Candace, are we going to see payments from Egypt or from Russia? What are we going to see? I mean, when she says, you know, I really want to be Russian now. I want to move to Russia. Are you telling us what you're going to do in advance? And are you taking your cult members with you? Please don't leave them behind. You can't make this up.